Raise your hand if you've ever sat across from a seller, looked at the comps, knew with 100% certainty that their price was too high, and you still nodded along with what they talked themselves into and now have talked you into. Yeah. Guilty. Me too. And for a long time, I thought the answer was better data, more charts, a cleaner CMA presentation. If I could just show them the numbers clearly enough, they're going to get it. Here's what I've learned. Overpricing is almost never a logic problem. It's an emotional one. And if you're trying to solve an emotional problem with data, us high Cs, you're going to lose it every single time. Today, I want to walk you through what actually does work. A set of linguistic pattern interrupts that are going to snap sellers out of their emotional fog and get them back to market reality. Not by arguing with them and not by overwhelming them with more numbers, but by asking the right questions at just the right moment. Let's dive in, shall we? So let's start by understanding why this happens so consistently, because I think it helps to have some compassion for your sellers before you go in with all of these techniques and agendas. When someone lists their home, they're not just selling a property, their home. They're selling all those memories, years and years of memories, years of mortgage payments, struggles, hassles, years of Saturday mornings fixing things, and Sunday afternoons in that backyard with the dog and the kids. The number they have in their head is not a price. It's a statement about the value of those chapters of their lives. When we walk in and we tell them the market doesn't agree with that number, you're not questioning their price. You're questioning their experience, their choices, their life, their worthiness, all of the things. That's emotional. That's why data alone never cuts it. Here's what a lot of agents make this problem worse without meaning to. They go into passive agreement mode. They sense the emotional charge in the room. They don't want to create conflict, and so they just sort of drift along and go along with the seller's number. Well, we could try it and see how the market responds. Let's list it there and monitor things. We can always adjust. Have you ever said that? That feels kind, and actually it's unkind, because what you've just done is you've let them set themselves up for what? A painful process and failure. A listing that sits, buyers who smell that staleness, price reductions day after day that feels like, by the end of it, you've lost trust, even if you had it at the beginning. The pattern interrupt is the compassionate choice. It's the thing you say when you care more about their actual outcome than about being liked in this moment. So this first category of interrupts is what I call the logic reset. These are the moves that redirect the conversation from value to velocity. Value is a conversation about what the house is worth to the seller. Velocity is a conversation about how fast the market is moving and where buyers are actually looking in the moment. Those are two different conversations, and you need to be in the second one. Here's how you shift it. Instead of presenting more data about comparable sales, you say something like, here's what I want to make sure that you understand about how buyers find homes today. They search the algorithms that buyers use, whether it's Zillow, Redfin, wherever they're looking, it doesn't matter, but they're all filtered by price brackets. And when we price above a certain threshold, we fall out of the search results for the buyers who can actually afford this house. And we into the results for buyers who are looking at houses bigger and better than this one. And those buyers are going to immediately move on. So the question isn't what this home is worth to you. The question is, which buyers do you actually want to attract to your house? Another version of this is what I call the aspirational anchor. It's a little counterintuitive. You can say, when a home is priced significantly above market in a neighborhood, it actually does something interesting. It makes all the neighbors' homes look more reasonable by comparison. So your high price might be the very thing that's going to get the house down the street an offer this weekend. I don't think that was the outcome you were going for. And the last line, said with a genuine smile, not sarcasm, tends to land with a jolt, because suddenly they can see it from a completely different angle. This is how we get them to shift. This is how you begin to get them identify with a different perspective, right? So let's get into the actual pattern interrupts. The specific questions that are going to create this jolt that you're looking for. The first one is what I call the net bottom line interrupt. And it's going to go something like this. Once you've established that the home is priced above market, you say, I want to walk through the math with you for just a second, because I think it's important. If your home sits on the market for day after day for 60 days before you get an offer, which is what we're seeing at this price point, you've paid 2 months of carrying costs, mortgage, taxes, insurance, utilities, on and on. Hassle, the hassle alone, right? So for most sellers, that's somewhere between $4,000 and $8,000, depending on the home. And buyers who have watched a listing for 60 days almost always come in lower because they know you're motivated. So the gap between where we're listing and where you should be listing, it often costs more than the difference itself. Does that math change the calculation for you at all? Now, that's not an argument. It's a genuine question. You're genuinely asking them to think about it differently. The second interrupt is more direct. And I want to be clear that it takes some confidence to deliver it well. But when you've built enough rapport, that feeling of liking, it's extraordinarily effective. I want to ask you something, and I want you to really sit with it before you answer me. Are you looking for a price that makes you feel good about the house, or a price that actually makes you move? Let it sit with them. Don't fill that silence. That question is going to work because it names the actual choice they're making. It's going to define it for them, right? Most sellers don't realize that they've optimized for the wrong variable. That question makes the variable very visible for them, which they may have a hard time seeing initially. So, the hidden costs. So let's talk about the time here. Because time is the thing that sellers systematically underestimate. In this market, and this is specific to 2026, right here, right now, the window for peak buyer interest is very short. You get a burst of attention in the very first 7 to 10 days. And after that, the algorithm is going to start showing your listing less frequently. We want to see what's hot, right? When you're the buyer. After 21 days, something shifts psychologically. Buyers are going to start asking questions like, why hasn't that house sold? Something must be wrong with it. Can we use that to negotiate maybe? Let's go in low. The 21-day mark is what I call the stigma threshold. And once a listing crosses that, you're not just fighting price, you're fighting that perception that the buyers have. And perception is much harder to fix with a price reduction than most sellers are going to realize. Here's how I frame this in the context. Here's the thing about timing that I want to make sure that you're thinking about. The buyers who are going to fall in love with this home, they're watching listings right now. They have alerts set up. And the moment a home like yours hits the market, their phone buzzes. It alerts them. And they have to be able to find it. And they have to want to see it before anyone else does. That's the urgency, the magic that gets the price, the number that you want. That's what creates the multiple offers. And that urgency has a shelf life.